My mom will turn 90 years old next week, and she's been a lifelong admirer of our 33rd president, Harry Truman, who was president from 1945 to 1953. And old Harry could teach disability applicants a good lesson about how to apply. What can he teach them? Well, stick around and you'll find out. Hello, I'm John Foster. I'm a medical doctor who does Social Security disability exams. I've been doing them since 2017, and as usual, everything I say reflects my own opinions based on my own experience and study, and not the opinions of the Social Security Administration or any other medical body. Now, my mom taught me two things about Harry Truman when I was young. The first was that in the White House, he had a plaque on his desk which said, "The buck stops here," which meant he didn't pass the buck, he handled the problem. And the second thing is that he was famous for plain speaking. He said what he thought and he said what he meant. In my most recent day of disability exams, I had a lot of frustration and difficulty with disability applicants who didn't speak plainly, and I'm going to describe some of those problems. First off, before the day of disability exams, as is my usual practice, I looked at the medical records Social Security had sent me on each person. And in one person's application, when they filled out Form 3373, they said that they were disabled because of mental health issues. Now, what did they mean by that? You don't have a clue, and neither do I. Let me give you some examples of real mental health issues that I've actually seen. One was a woman who was obsessed with the idea that she was dirty, so that she was compelled to wash her hands about every 5 minutes while she was awake, spending almost her entire waking day washing her hands. The second was a man who was very upset because he believed the FBI was putting evil thoughts in his brain through his television. And the third was a woman, a nun, who was desperate to end her life because she believed she was possessed by the devil. All of those are true patients with true mental health issues, but they're not the same. The first one had obsessive compulsive neurosis. The second one had schizophrenia, and the third one had psychotic depression. When I got to start my day of disability exams, one of the people that I saw told me that they were disabled because of back issues. What did they mean by that? You don't have a clue, and I don't have a clue. Did they mean, and these are all real examples I've seen from my disability exam practice, that they'd been shot in the back, severing all their nerves so that they couldn't feel their legs or move their legs at all? Did they mean that they'd had an operation on their back and very unfortunately developed an infection, so they had a hole in their back that was leaking pus? Or did they mean that they developed severe pinching of the nerves in their back and had been advised to have surgery to relieve the pinching, but had decided to wait, and unfortunately they waited too long until the nerves were permanently damaged, so they had only partial feeling and only partial strength in their legs and were quite wobbly walking and tended to fall down a lot. Sometimes it seems like people want to talk about everything except what are their actual disabilities. Remember, disability means that you have medical problems that limit your ability to work. Now, it doesn't mean that you have medical problems alone. There are many medical problems that have no effect on your ability to work. High blood pressure is a common example. High blood pressure without complications is a medical problem, but you people can work just fine with it. It also doesn't mean that you have limitations on your ability to work that are not due to medical problems. Suppose you have no transportation, no way to get to a job. Well, that's a limitation, but Social Security will not approve you for disability if you're able-bodied and able-minded and it's a transportation problem. Now, let's say you're a right-handed person and you've had a stroke that has made your right arm and right leg numb and paralyzed. Now you have a medical problem that severely limits your ability to work, and you're very likely to be approved for disability. I would like all disability applicants and all people scheduled for disability exams to stop using the word issue. Don't say I have back issues or heart issues or psychological issues. Speak plainly. In plain terms, describe what's wrong and how it limits your ability to work. The second problem that I had, and I've got a new name for this, I'm going to call it the MRI mafia. Because every time I talk about MRIs, I get some people absolutely enraged who leave blistering comments about how I don't know what I'm talking about. And I now realize it's impossible to change those folks' minds. But I'm sure there's many reasonable people who watch these videos who can learn a little bit about MRIs. So what happened was I had a person and I asked them to please describe their problems and how they limit their ability to work. And they went to hand me a disc showing their MRI. And that isn't what I need to know. As I talked about time and time again, MRIs provide only limited information for people with problems with their spine. For example, a doctor cannot tell if a person has neck or back pain based on their MRI. And it's rare that a doctor can tell. Occasionally they can, but it's rare that they can know for sure whether somebody's having serious pinched nerve problems from an MRI. Those nerve problems tend to cause numbness, muscle weakness, clumsiness, and changes in deep tendon reflexes. So what I need to know is, first of all, what are the person's symptoms? If it's a problem with their back, does their back hurt? You wouldn't believe the number of times I've had somebody going on and on and on about their MRI and or their surgeries, and finally I have to ask them, does your back hurt? Because they've never mentioned it. Likewise, do you have a full range of motion? What sort of limitations do you have? Can you do heavy lifting and carrying, etc.? Can you twist side to side? Those are the things that are important in a disability exam. For spinal problems, and Social Security has this on their website, they use MRI and other imaging information, such as X-rays or ultrasounds or scans, as supporting information only. What they most rely on is what the person tells the doctor and what the doctor finds on their exam. And I want to go a little bit more into the actual process of an MRI. If you've ever had an MRI, and I've had 3, you know that you make an appointment and you lie in this claustrophobic tube and put headphones on because it makes a horrendous clanking sound, and you have to lie perfectly still for anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour, and then you go home not knowing what it showed, and then in a couple of days your doctor gets the MRI report. So how is this MRI report generated? Well, a specialist in X-rays and scans, which is called a radiologist, spends most of their day sitting in a darkened room looking at a computer monitor, and the pictures from your MRI show up on the monitor, and that radiologist looks at them and makes a report. In most cases, that radiologist has never talked to you and never examined you. And in the majority of cases, they don't have a clue why you're getting the MRI. Your doctor who orders the MRI is supposed to give a reason, but that's actually rarely done. The ideal situation is where the doctor who wants the MRI goes and talks to the radiologist, explains what they're worried about, and then when the images are generated, looks at the images with the radiologist, and both of them decide what's going on. That is extremely rare. I used to do it a lot when I worked in the hospital in the emergency department, but I'm telling you that is rare. So the radiologist who read your MRI probably doesn't have a clue about what you're experiencing and what you're feeling wrong. You need to tell the Social Security and the examining doctor what your experience is, what you're feeling wrong, and how that limits your ability to work. And once again, I will say, Social Security will not approve disability based on musculoskeletal pain alone. They won't approve disability because your neck or back or other part of your body hurt a lot. That pain must limit your ability to work, and you must explain how it limits your ability to work. I believe that everyone who's disabled should have the best chance of getting their application approved. And it frustrates and saddens me when I see people going down the wrong path, not understanding what's important. I'm going to finish with two final examples. So, suppose you knew somebody and they told you that they were applying for disability because they had widespread spondylosis and they had L4-5 spondylolysis with 5 millimeter spondylolisthesis and left-sided L5-S1 neural foraminal encroachment. Would you know what they're feeling or experiencing? And would you know if they're disabled? You wouldn't have a clue, and neither would I. I can't tell if that person, based on that MRI, is completely fine or is terribly disabled. I need to talk to them and I need to examine them. Now, suppose you meet somebody who tells you they're applying for disability and you ask why, and they say, because my low back hurts like hell most of the time. I can't even bend over to tie my shoes. I have to wear slides. And I can't even pick up a bag of groceries. It hurts so much. And sometimes if I move the wrong way or cough or sneeze, I get this awful electric burning feeling that shoots down my left leg all the way to my toes. You'd know exactly what they were experiencing and feeling, and so would I. And that's what I mean by plain speaking. So when you apply for disability or when you have a disability exam, explain your problem in plain, normal, understandable language. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and as always, remember, if it happens, it's possible.